Hey everybody, Courtney here with Smitty's Fly Box. Just going to go over a little warm water pattern here today. This is our pig boat. This is a good little bass pattern to use. We like using, typically bass fish a lot in the springtime for the most part. Kind of sometimes when our rivers are blown out, we like to take a break from the trout and go after bass. So this is one of our favorite patterns. It's got good weight, kind of has that crawdad feel with all the rubber legs. Takes me back to using spinner baits and buzz baits back when I was a kid, throwing those, catching bass. So anyways, what I've got here in the vise is a Mustad 90-degree jig hook. It's a size 1/0. I have a 6.3 black nickel brass cone head, and then I've just got UTC 70 in purple for my thread. I'm just going to start by building up a thread dam right here to stop the cone from coming up and around that 90-degree bend. So let's take a minute here and just build up a little bump here. And as you're doing this, you just want to make sure that your thread doesn't fall off the front of the hook like that. And I've found too, with the glue, you can use UV glue on this. I'm not a huge fan of it because as you're tying the fly and you're adding pressure up here against the cone with your materials, sometimes that UV glue will fail and it'll break, and then that cone can still slip forward. So I don't like to have a huge, big thread dam here. I just want something that's just going to stop the cone from sliding up and around that hinge or that bend of the hook. I'll do my whip finish, cut out the thread here, and I just like to take a little bit of Zap-A-Gap and just put right there on the thread. Like I said, you could use UV. I've done UV before, and that UV is just it's just failed on me several times, so I like to just use the Zap-A-Gap for that. Okay, next we're just going to add some weight to this fly, just help to get it down quick. So I just have some .020 lead, and I'm just going to do 10 wraps or so. You can adjust that obviously for where you're fishing. Sometimes you can do them unweighted too if you're fishing real shallow and brushy shoreline and stuff. But for this particular pattern here, I will fish a lake that has got a lot of rocky shoreline on it, and it's deeper, so I like to have a little bit of weight to get it down. Okay, so I just push that lead right up against the cone as far in as I can get it. We'll reattach our thread. And I'm just going to build a thread dam right behind the lead, and then we can come back here to our tie-in point, which is just above the barb of the hook. Okay, so now I'm going to tie in my fly tail. So this fly tail is just a large purple with blue flake. This is from Wapsi. I like using these tails quite a bit for some really good movement on streamers. They look really cool in the water. And on this pattern in particular, it just screams bass, so I think it's just good. So what I do, if I do the 10 wraps of lead, I usually just try to match this tail up so the end of the tail hits the end of my lead. You can adjust the length of this tail as you want. And you can also adjust the size too, just buy different sizes for different sizes of hooks. They make a small size as well that works good for smaller sized hooks there. Okay, so tail's tied in easy enough. Then we're ready for our body. Our body is just purple cactus chenille in large. Tie that in right there at the back of the hook at our tie-in point. And now I'll just wrap this forward. So I try to straighten it out the best I can. And then as I'm wrapping, I just kind of brush these fibers back so none of them get trapped too bad. And then once I get right up here behind the cone, I like to do one full turn right behind the cone and then bring my chenille up and anchor that down with the thread. Okay, so there's the body of our fly. Just add a couple more good tight turns of thread there. And this is where, when I've used UV glue in the past, where I've started to build up materials against this cone, it pushes that cone forward and it ends up breaking the UV glue apart. Okay, so now what I've got for my legs is just a full strand here of silicone legs. You can use obviously any color that you want. I like these fire tip legs here for this particular pattern and this color scheme. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this band right in half. I'm going to keep these welded edges here, these crimped edges together. We're going to use that for our advantage here at the end of the fly. I'm just going to cut those in half, so then you end up with this guy right here. So I'm just going to use half of a strand of those. And what I like to do to tie these in is I like to do reverse tie them in. So I'm going to have the pink hanging out the back when the fly is finished. So what I like to do is just take these purple tips here that I've cut now, take them all in your fingers, and then holding them with my right hand, just kind of line those tips up around the cone the best that I can. And if you can, you just try to roll them around the best you can. That'll just help in the end get the even coverage of those legs around the body of the fly. And I'll take a loose gathering wrap, and I want to make sure my thread is seated right inside right behind my cone. Come up around again, another tight turn. You can feel that silicone really sink down behind the cone there, and that's okay. That's what we want. That's going to help add a little bit of volume to these rubber legs when we fold them back over. So I also like to come in, if there's any long tag ends here, I'm just going to cut them out so they're not messing with our fly at the end. And then all I'm going to do is just fold them back over themselves, just like so. Yeah. One guy didn't make it, I cut the wrong guy there. And I just kind of look at that and just make sure that they are folded evenly around the body of the fly. And this is where I like having that welded edge still attached, so I can just kind of pull them back as I need. And now I can come back in as I'm holding that tight. I can come in and make a few more wraps here to help those legs lay back and cinch down nice and tight. So with reverse tying that in, it just adds a little bit of volume to those rubber legs. Rather than just laying flat, they have a little bit, you can see here, a little bit of a body right there to help them move a little bit better and stand out. So now I'm just going to take actually I'm going to whip finish first. So we'll go ahead and do our whip finish, just right behind the cone. And then I'll come in with my scissors here, and this is where you can really make these legs as shorter or long as you want. I just like to come in and cut them just basically right off of that weld, so they all come loose. So, and there it is, there's your pig boat. So effective little pattern, little crawdad pattern style fly that we like to fish quite a bit. So you can see doing that reverse tie gets them tied in really well. You can come back in even after you're done and move them around however you need to. So if you need to do some adjusting, but that is a very effective pattern that we like to use for springtime bass,